message to the other people, and I will be back up within 4 minutes to give an intro.
This live event is over. Yeah, it really does believe that. Yeah.
Okay. Back for lunch break. So do we know how to stop it?
Yeah, we just can't stop it until it's finished.
And so you'll stop it.
And I didn't do that because I've done that once already.
All right, good.
Is it showing up?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Then we're good. I think this is fine. I don't know how to get it back to do the slide share, so I think this is fine though.
Great. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the next training in our series. This is WordPress for Professional Blogging. This by Suzan Alteri. This is one of the trainings from the Digital Humanities Library Group, also presented in conjunction with the Digital Humanities Working Group here at the University of Florida. And we should be on Google Hangouts on air. Apologies for any early interruption on that. And I will be in the audience. So if anyone wants to email me or message me if there are any troubles with Google Hangouts on air, I'll be checking that throughout. To our in-person attendees, please remember to sign the sign-up sheet that's going around. And now I'll turn it over to Suzan.
Thanks, Lori. So hi, I'm Suzan Alteri, for those of you who might be watching at home. And so if you can't hear, if my voice isn't clear enough, please email or chat with Lori. And then she'll tell me to modify my voice because I'm projecting the screen, so I can't really see how my voice is picking up. For those of you who are watching online or might watch later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with, first we're going to do a brief PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to do some hands-on work with WordPress. And for those of you who are either watching now or later, I will be doing the hands-on work from my screen as well, so that it will capture that for you. Okay? So today we're going to talk about, our agenda is sort of an introduction to WordPress and how it can be used. We're going to look at some best practices for creating and promoting a blog. I'm going to talk a little bit also about WordPress as a content management system. And then we're going to do some hands-on work with WordPress so you can kind of get a feel for it. How many people in the room have used WordPress before or are currently using WordPress? I know there's 3 other people. 4. Okay. Okay, great. So first of all, what is WordPress? WordPress is a content management system that is primarily used for blogs, but it can also be used for websites as well. It's extremely powerful. It offers a free version and different levels of a pay version. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And WordPress is probably, I would say, one of the most stable and probably maybe the most popular software platform for blogging and websites. I've even seen some universities who have used WordPress to create their websites. So also, how can you use WordPress? You can use WordPress as a blog, a professional portfolio, and as a website, either a personal website, a professional website, whatever you would like. And there's a free version, which most of us who are currently using WordPress in sort of our work are using. I'll also show you some of the things that come with the paid versions. And one thing that's nice with using WordPress is you're able to explore the themes and different blogs before you actually create your blog or even an account, okay? One of the things I'm also going to look at is, and that you can look at for free, is this is what WordPress calls its freshly pressed. Blogs. It might take a sec. It's taking a second to load here, so it might take a second as well.
Stop.
So we're just experiencing some technical difficulties while I change my screen to share.
Let's make sure. Present to everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Lori. So this is freshly pressed. These are editors' picks of blogs that people have created. Some of them are blogs. Some of them are also websites. One of the nice sites that I saw on here was which one was it? Sorry. Now they're all organized in a different way than when I first saw them. So you can look at different blogs and see what people are using. So this is an example of a blog and a blog post. It looks like they're using a template that is both a blog and a website. And you will see a lot of sort of what I call quasi, they're half and half, blog, half website. A number of people are doing that. So this is also a way for you to look at sort of different types of blogs, whether they be creative or more academically oriented. It also gives you a way to look at things that might be more text oriented versus being more visually oriented. So this is a more text-based type of blog. We don't have as many images within the actual text like we saw with the previous blog. So that is a nice place to just check out some things. Go back to my screen share here. So are there any examples? Because we're going to take a look at 3 different, 4 blogs here at UF, and then one that is from the link that Blake actually sent out to the group this morning that I decided to use, which is an example of a website. I thought I hit present to everyone.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just a second. Okay, yeah, you're right. So, okay.
Sorry, this is you know, a work in progress. We're working with some new technology, so that's why there's a little bit of a start and stop between the screen sharing for those of you who are watching now or will watch later. So these are some examples of different types of blogs and websites. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this hyperlink. And I'm going to go back and change my screen sharing so I can change my screen. This is an example of a website. Okay. This is also an example of a site where she has paid at, well, we know that she's at least paid to have her own domain name. And the way you can tell that is it doesn't say, you know, mooncindykim.wordpress.com. So the free version will always have that your title of your website or blog .wordpress.com. WordPress is the domain, so it's not yours, okay? And if we click inside here, is it showing up, Lori? So you can see that this is a website. We have a little bit of a biography. She's got a right-hand navigation menu instead of a left-hand, so we can look at her CV, different projects she's working on, and then there's also the navigation at the top. So we can click on projects, and then she's got an overall statement, and it looks like we have to click on the actual project over here on the right-hand navigation. So here's a bibliography of linked open data. And this is an example of a very robust website. As I mentioned, and as we'll talk about, because WordPress is a content management system, it allows you to do things that are very powerful, okay? And I can also search the website. So if I wanted to look at something that references rare books on her site, I can see that it's mentioned in 3 different places, okay? So this is an example of a website. So now we're going to take a look at Rebecca Jefferson's blog for the Judaica Suite and the Judaica Collection. And hopefully I'm getting a little faster at this. This is Rebecca's, this is a blog. It's called Ghosts in the Pages, okay? And you can see up here, Rebecca is using the free version because, like many of us do, because she's got that .wordpress.com, okay? And you can see her posts here. This is, she just posted this September 28th. I think you're doing once a month. Yeah, Rebecca's doing once a month, and we're going to talk about scheduling a little bit later. But Rebecca's blog is focused on her collection in a very interesting way. She tells sort of the stories of particular items in her collections. It's more text heavy than when you will look at the Baldwin blog, which is also collection focused. It's also, I would say, a little bit more scholarly than mine is. Would you say that's true, Rebecca? And a little bit. I think it's true. I follow her blog. I think it's true. So this is an example, and you used one of the themes from WordPress. Did you do any customization, Rebecca?
I didn't.
No. Okay.
It's very basic.
Yep.
And in fact, I'm rather frustrated that it says R. Jefferson blog because I wanted it to say Ghosts in the Pages blog, and I don't know how to do that.
That may be something we can show you a little bit later. So Rebecca used a template or a theme, as it's called in WordPress, and she didn't do any customization to it, which you can do in WordPress. There's different ways to do that, and we'll talk about that as well. And next, we're going to look at Dan's blog.
Well, the whole map's there. It's just the design.
There it is.
Okay, so hopefully those of you who aren't here are bearing with us. This is Dan's blog on African Studies. And if you click the About page, you can see Dan talks a little bit about his work in different projects he's working on. And he also has his CV, which is available. Now, Dan's blog is a little bit different from my blog and Rebecca's blog, which you previously saw. Dan's blog is primarily, he posts African studies links. These can be links to articles, a link to an ethnography, and he writes a little sort of synopsis here, and then here's all of his archives of what he's posted, his most recent posts. And so these are resources, as it states, for African studies, academic research, and teaching. Okay, so Dan's isn't necessarily collection focused. Correct? Thanks, Dan. But he, I believe I asked him, and he said occasionally he might put in a post about like a new acquisition or something, but usually it's primarily focused on research links, very current, you know, of interest to people in the African studies field. Okay, so that's another way that you can use a blog, and you can see this is a different template with a different format. You can also see Dan is also using the free version of WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Sorry, I'm just waiting for something to load. Here we go. Do a screen share. I hope I'm not making anyone sick at home. This is Lori's site. This is what I would refer to, and Lori will correct me if I'm wrong, what is a dual site. This is both a website and a blog, okay? So up here you see the more website type of functions. So we can see what Lori's working on currently. Again, we have a search button here. What's interesting about this is that Lori, I believe, is paying for her own domain name. So you can see that she doesn't have the WordPress anywhere on her site up at the top. But you know that this is made with WordPress because it's got a link down here that will tell you that it is made. So for the blog version, Lori posts a little bit like Dan. She posts, you know, things about events at UF. So for example, the talk that was given Monday evening, I was going to say morning, and other things related to her work, to digital humanities. She's got a very robust, and we're going to talk about this, social media. She's leveraging the most social media she can here. So I follow her on Twitter, and then I retweet. And so I get updates from this blog, and this is something WordPress will do for you via her Twitter feed. And that's how I access it. Okay. So this is a really great example of how to do a dual functioning WordPress site. Okay. It's very clear and it's very consistent.
And she gets to use the ORG
That's the one that I bought. Yeah.
because you purchased it.
I also have .com and .net.
Just so I'm just going to capture the question for the people at home. So Shelley asked if she got the .org as part of the paying for the domain name, and that is correct. Lori chose that. She said she also has .com and .net as well. Okay, so just for people at home. So that is something you can do. So again, I'm going to stop for just a second. I hope I'm getting faster at this. Now we're going to take a look at the Baldwin blog as soon as I can get. And I will promise you that this is going to get a little less crazy with the sharing. Okay, so this is the Baldwin Library blog. As you can see, I am also using the free template. Okay, I haven't paid for a domain name and I haven't paid for any premium content. This is what mine looks like. It's very different than the other blogs we've seen. And this is primarily because this is a blog, first of all, it is dedicated to sharing serendipitous paratextual findings in books. And we explain what a paratext is. That's inscriptions or marginalia, marks of provenance. So this is a very, and I just posted this today, but there's something I want you to notice here, is that my last post was September 18th, 2014. And if you look at my older posts, you can see they were every week, sometimes twice a week. And I'm going to talk about this later in the best practices, but having a month delay, if you're not doing a monthly update, if you've been more frequent than that, that's not good. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about the mistake I made and how I'm going to correct that. Okay, so if we look at, you just have to click on this. You can see very image heavy and very large images, not always a lot of text. Now, one of the things that the free one does have occasionally is ads. Okay, that's because I don't want to pay not to have ads. Okay, and then you can, the nice thing about WordPress is that you can share things. So I actually have it automatically set to go out via my Twitter account. Okay, and then people have retweeted that, which is a good way to promote your blog. So automatically you can see there's one person, which is me, who has shared this via Twitter. And then other people will then maybe retweet it or something, and then it sends out a short link. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I also have contributors. So I have other people writing posts for me. And I included a link to the Baldwin website as well. This is solely a blog. This is not a website. And our blog is called Once There Was a Book. But again, you can see our name is actually UF Baldwin Library. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the naming because that name makes this blog really hard to find if you want to Google it and you don't remember the link. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Now, this template did allow for some customization. And thankfully, I had a student. I had two, actually. But Carrie Elkins knew some code and knew how to create things. So she was able to customize things for me. And she created this, see if it'll show up bigger here. No, I guess not. This B from an alphabet block with it says Baldwin Library of Historical Children's Literature. Okay, she was able to do that for me. And I thank her very much. Okay, I think now we're going to stop, hopefully being so hectic with the sharing. So if you decide you want to create a blog, these are some things that I think are important and some other people think are important. before you even start, okay? So the first thing you want to look at is, what is your general idea? And it can be somewhat abstract, you know, just your really overall idea for why you want a blog. So, you know, you start with, I'd like to do a blog on, you know, things in the Baldwin Library, okay? That's the first, right? Now I want to come up with, that's just the general idea, right? So then I have to determine, is a blog the right format? Okay. So in this case, if I'm highlighting things from the collections of the Baldwin, in terms of social media, you have, right, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. There's a number of things you could use. So because I want to share stuff about the collections and images and text, Twitter's probably not going to be a good way, right? Because I'm limited with my characters. Facebook is also probably not a good way because, you know, you don't want huge posts on Facebook, right? Long posts, like you saw in my blog with lots of images, right? Yeah, okay, good. And same thing with Instagram and Tumblr. That's great for the images, not so great if you want some text with the images, you know, more than just a caption. So we determined that, yes, in this instance, a blog was a right format. If you are promoting, you know, events, you know, Facebook can be a very good way to do that. You don't necessarily need a blog to do that. So I know Rebecca has a blog and a Facebook page for her collection. And the events typically get posted through her Facebook, not her personal Facebook, but the Facebook account she uses for the Price Library of Judaica. And she uses the blog to post about items and special items in the collection. And then she links the two. And so when she makes a new post on her blog, she also puts that on her Facebook page. And then there's a small cadre of us. I share it on my Facebook page, my personal page. Hey, everybody, check this out. So you really want, you know, you want to determine whether you want to use a blog, because blogs are a lot of work, okay? And you don't want to do a lot of work if you don't have to, because we all already do a lot of work, right? So after you've determined that the blog is the right format, then you want to come up with an overall goal for your blog. So the general idea for the Baldwin was, highlighting things from the Baldwin Library collection. Well, now I got to narrow that a little bit, because that's a little bit too general. So we narrowed it to talking about paratext, because it's one of the things the Baldwin is known for by other institutions and scholars. It's engaging. We have a lot of images. We try not to have too much text, but, you know, we get a little excited sometimes. And we also thought it was good, and this kind of leads into the next point. It was good to share items in our collection and to share items with the general public that we thought the general public would be interested in, okay? And that leads into the next point, because you also want to figure out, in tandem with the goal, who is your target audience? Is your target audience scholars? Is your target audience anyone? General public, scholars, you know, is it for students? Is it for other librarians? All are equally acceptable. You want to figure that out before you start your blog, okay? So, and it could even be all of those. So you want to sort of pick who your target audience is, because that's going to affect, first of all, what you post, what you write, and how you write it. And things like, are you going to use lots of images? You know, if you're doing something for the public, more images is better. If you're doing something for scholars, you know, sometimes you don't even need an image, you know, although I usually think it's good to at least have one, because it makes it more dynamic and engaging. And then, so what type of blog / website do you want to create? So are you creating a blog? Are you creating more of a website? Are you going to do what Lori did, which was a hybrid of the two? How often, and this gets back to the Baldwin blog, how often do you want, and sometimes more importantly, are able to update the blog? Okay? Because once you start a schedule and then you break that schedule, people who are following you don't like that. Okay? So that doesn't mean that you can't fix it. You can, but you want to try and, you know, I always say, because we all have full-time jobs, that, you know, less frequent, you know, the more, if you have to write a blog post, have images in your blog post, you know, that takes time, a lot of time, in fact. And so, you know, if you're doing that style, it's going to take you longer to update the blog. Okay. And then one thing you want to think about is, how much customization do you want? Because there are different layers to WordPress, which we're going to look at, and some allow you, even the free ones will allow you to do a certain amount of customization. So you have to figure out, you know, how much and what type you might want, because that will affect the choosing of your theme. You know, if you want a really high level of customization, and we're going to talk about that as well. So I'm just going to go over some best practices for blogging. First of all, you're always going to want to do some preliminary research first. So like those things I just mentioned, you know, at least have an idea in your mind written down. Look at the different types of themes. You know, they have hundreds of them, you know, and you may say, okay, now I've narrowed it down to 4. And then really go in and look at them and see what you can do with them. And you can look at the themes without actually creating a WordPress account, okay? Make sure to figure out your logistics, both short and long term. So the logistics are sort of the who's going to be working on this? Is it just you? Are you going to have contributors? You know, you can have students working on it. What are you going to post? Images, videos, text. You can post links. You can post a lot of different things. When? So how often are you going to do it? And how? Okay. Now this one is optional, but I found it extremely helpful. Other people who have used this, if they want to comment, they can. Is to discuss with some colleagues before you make any final decisions. So if you are blogging on a topic that might be heavily blogged about, so let's say you want to do a blog about instruction, that's fantastic. Just because there are numerous instruction blogs out there doesn't mean you don't have anything original to say. But you want to make sure you talk with some people about it to make sure what you're planning to do is slightly unique. Okay, you're not just going to rehash what other people are already doing. Okay. It can also help you narrow your idea. So when you start talking or thinking about it, you know, somebody may say, you know, if I had approached, you know, Lori about, Lori, I want to do something with the Baldwin and its collections. Lori might say, well, hey, you know what's really neat about your collections is the paratext. Great, Lori's just narrowed down my idea for me, single-handedly. And, you know, they can help with, you know, sorts of, you know, your audience and those types of things. They might be able, if they're doing it, they might be able to give you advice on, you know, oh, you don't want to update that often because that could get dicey, as we know. Choosing a theme. When you choose a theme, you want to make sure that it has the features you need, okay? So choosing a theme is crucial. You want to choose one, first of all, that's appropriate for your content, and that one that has certain kinds of features you're going to want. You know, so does it archive automatically for you? Those types of things. You want to also develop a schedule for updating the blog. And I actually suggest that you put it in your Outlook or whatever calendar you use so that you don't forget, because you may be really busy that day, to remember to post your blog post, okay? So the one thing I'm going to talk about with the Baldwin blog is that when I started it, it was me plus my Baldwin assistant plus an intern. It's 3 people. That's a lot of people to man a blog. And we decided that we were going to do it twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday. And that worked fabulously until fall came. And Carrie, my Baldwin assistant, went to graduate school in New York. And Abby, my intern, future Baldwin assistant, is on study abroad in the fall semester. She's in England. Now, they were very generous, and they typed up a whole bunch of blog posts that I could use during the fall. But all of a sudden, all the posting, everything now came down to me. There was no one else to help, at least for the fall. And I couldn't remember to update twice a week because I had sometimes more pressing things to deal with. And then I would remember, you know, Tuesday at, you know, 8 o'clock when I'm at home, which is not a good time to post anything, you know. So, and then I think, oh, you know, I forgot to update the blog. And that's why you see that month-long gap. I forgot to update the blog for a month because I was very busy. And we all are. And so that's why you really want to develop a schedule, not just for the short term, but the long term. And so I have made a change in my scheduling. I'm now going to update every Thursday, every other week. So I only have to do it twice a month. And I'm going to post that change on the blog so that people no longer expect it to be 2 times a week every week. So again, make sure to stick with your schedule of updating. One thing that's important is that it's okay to deviate once in a while from your overall goal of the blog. I'd say that your blog should remain on target probably about 90 to 95% of the time, because that's what your audience and the people who are following you have come to expect. They're reading your blog because there's this specific content in it. Now you can deviate, you know, once in a while, and that's fine. But you don't want to do that. So it takes time to build an audience. So you, in some ways, when you embark on this, you have to be patient and don't get frustrated that, you know, only 6 people might have looked at your blog or something like that, because these are things that build over time. It's very rare that someone starts a blog and then immediately has, you know, 200 followers, unless they have 200 close friends who are willing to help them out with that. Promotion is crucial to success. So not only then do you have to remember when you're working with blogs to update, you have to remember to promote things WordPress will do. automatically, like I mentioned, the Twitter. I'm not sure if it does Facebook automatically. So I post it to my Facebook page on my own. I also have wonderful colleagues who, if they have time and they remember, tweet it for me as well. So I tweet it, and then I have some other people who might go and tweet it, and this expands the audience. And then I retweet their tweet, and then you see how that works. The other ways too that you can promote your blog is a website, through your website or through a LibGuide, right? You could use Twitter, Facebook. You could use LinkedIn as well. If other bloggers are, you notice people who are commenting might be other bloggers, one of the best ways, because this is social, is if they comment on you, because guess what? If you put a link to their blog, they're probably going to put a link to your blog. It's you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of environment. And you can also ask, if there's other relevant blogs that you know about, you can ask to be, say, hey, take a look at this blog. If you'd like to include it on your page, you'd be happy to include your, and send someone a message. It's, everybody loves promoting blogs. So I don't think anybody's going to say, no, I don't want to promote your blog. If you're going to promote mine, it's that kind of. So make sure your blog and web address are searchable. And I mean that in two ways. I mean, you want to always have a search function in your blog or your website, or your blog and website. But you also want to make sure Google can find it, right? Because where's the first place everybody goes to find stuff? They go to Google, okay? And I'll show you what happens when you try to find the Baldwin Library's blog on Google. And then the final thing from me is that if you want to make this an official UF blog, okay, so you're going to use UF colors, you're going to use UF logo, all that kind of stuff, you need to follow the social media policy, which means you have to fill out some forms. You have to get it okayed through, your chair and the dean, and you have to get it registered officially with UF, okay? Now, I took these other best practices from this website, which you could get to from the PowerPoint. One is to be helpful and be slightly unique. So people want information that's interesting or helpful to them, right? So Dan's blog is very helpful to people in African studies or people who are interested in Africa. Rebecca's blog is very interesting. It's also has information that's helpful to scholars and other people who are interested in Jewish studies. My blog is somewhat unique because it is focused specifically on paratext within the Baldwin Library. While it may not provide helpful information, so to speak, it can provide interesting information. If you're doing, if it fits your type of blog, you're going to want to respond to trends. So I noticed that Dan had a very interesting post, very current, on Ebola. I don't know exactly what it was because I didn't read it, sorry. But, right? It's an important thing happening right now in African studies and in Africa. So if you have that type of blog, you're going to want to respond to trends. Now, it doesn't make much sense for, my blog to have a post on Ebola. First of all, I don't have a book on it. I don't even know if there's a children's book yet on it, so it doesn't really fit the purpose of my blog, okay? So, and you're going to want to use some images, like I said, at least one, if not more, because, you know, it's a little engaging to users, even scholars. People like them, like images. It doesn't mean if you're doing a more text-based blog that you have to go a little bit crazy like I do and have a lot of images. You know, the intention of my blog is to be more visual. And like I said, you're going to want to share the content of others. It's going to help you. It's going to help them as well. You want to match your content to your target audience. So if you're writing for scholars, your posts should be written somewhat in a scholarly way, okay? So you don't want to use a lot of slang or anything like that. And like I said, maximize social media platforms. So you're going to want to promote through all these different social media avenues, as many as you can, okay? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about WordPress as a content management system. WordPress operates as a content management system, and that is the case for both the free and the paid sites. Obviously, you get more space the more you pay, but you do get content management with free version as well. And I'll share an interesting story about that. If you're doing a website or a blog, all of your content should be stored in WordPress, particularly if you're linking to things like images and videos. WordPress has a way for you to have a media library, okay, where you can store all of the images you are using in your blog, past and present and future. Now, in the free version, you have a limit to what you can do, but you're going to want to do that because when I first started posting, I didn't have my images in the WordPress media library. They were from my desktop, from folders located on my computer. And then I walked in a couple days later and pulled up the blog, and suddenly some images were missing. You know, that little box with the question mark in the middle, that's what was coming up. That's because I didn't have my materials in WordPress. So WordPress was acting like it couldn't find the material, so there was no image there anymore, including on the post, okay? So you're gonna wanna store your images and your videos in addition to your desktop. You always wanna have in case you need to re-upload it, but you're gonna wanna store it in WordPress as well. And that's where it starts to operate as a content management system. And because WordPress is a content management system, it can be very powerful. However, to be very powerful, you have to pay, okay? You're only going to be able to hit a certain level of power in the free version, and then you're just not going to be able to do anymore. To be somewhat powerful, you may need basic coding skills, okay? So say you want to create a unique little logo. Thankfully, Carrie has basic coding skills. So she modified the coding and you can modify WordPress coding if you know how, for that particular theme, okay? Also, the more customization you have, the more you're going to need to leverage the content management aspects of WordPress, okay? So, are there any questions before we move to the hands-on part of the workshop? Or have I bored you completely? Yeah.
So you can see how many people are looking at the blog?
Yes. Yes. So the question was, you can see how many people are looking at the blog posts. And yes, that's correct. You can. Now, if you're looking at the blog post, which I often do that after I publish it to see how it looks, even though you can preview it, I still want to do that. That will include me as well.
Does it tell you how people are finding it?
It does give you some information on how people are finding it. There's a little bit of analytics there. The more powerful analytics, again, the more you may have to move into one of the sort of premium pay version of WordPress. Okay? Yes.
What are the pay scales like? Is it per year, per month?
We're going to look at that. And it is, I believe, per month, I think. But I could be wrong. They may have both. You know, I think to buy like the domain name is like a one-time fee. Is that right, Lori?
No, domains are annual.
Oh, it's annual. But you don't have to pay every month. Like, well, I mean, you could do the annual per month, but it's so much a year to own that domain name. Okay. But we're going to, when we go into the hands-on, we're going to look at, that's one of the things we're going to look at is the pay scale. I mean, it's not overly expensive, but, you know, if it's a monthly payment and it's, you know, $20 a month, that can quickly add up. You know, so you're going to want to think about that. And I can tell you that the library is not going to pay for it, that you are going to have to pay for it. Okay. If you want to do that. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay.
So go ahead and thank our Google Hangouts people, and we're going to stop sharing now for the hands-on section. And the rest of the recording will be broadcast. Please do feel free to ask Susan, as you can see her email on the screen, questions after this. And everyone, let's thank Susan for a great presentation.
Thanks for everybody's attention.
And thanks for the remote folks. And now we're moving into hands-on, so we will see you all later.